So when deciding which video I was going to film today, I was looking around and looking at different car articles, things that have to do with automotive news, and honestly, for some reason I came across a lot of articles today talking about manual transmissions, electric vehicles, and basically the normal like doom and gloom for us car enthusiasts, where, you know, so many people are saying 5 to 10 years from now nothing's ever going to be manual ever again. There's going to be no more internal combustion engines, like the typical stuff that you see on the internet. Now today I actually have two articles here by Car and Driver that are essentially just lists, and they list out every single car and then crossover an SUV that you can still buy brand new with a manual transmission. And surprisingly, there's probably a lot more than you would expect. Now, I do want to give credit to Car and Driver for making this list, so both of the articles that we're going to be looking at today will be linked down in the description below, so be sure to check it out if you want to go a little bit more in depth than I'm going to in this video. I'm essentially just going to go right down the list. They're all like basically like listed alphabetically, and I'm going to be telling you guys like my brief opinions and kind of giving like a little synopsis of what I think of every single vehicle, whether or not I've driven it before, and whether or not I think that they're overpriced or underpriced, or, you know, perfectly fine in the current market. Now, mind you, in the current market, everything's inflated, so take it with a grain of salt. But again, with today's video, I wanted to be a little bit more positive than most of the automotive news that us car enthusiasts have been seeing over the course of like the past year or so. But anyways, before we get into today's video, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. If you've already been subscribed, definitely be sure to click that little bell icon down in the bottom below. That actually turns on post notifications and gets you notified every time that I post a new video. And as a smaller car channel here on YouTube that posts new content daily, all that is greatly appreciated. Also, we've already passed 2,900 subscribers on the channel, so we're getting close to 3,000, so the countdown's kind of started for that. So if you want to help me out, I would definitely appreciate it. But anyways, without wasting any more time, guys, getting into the first list and looking at all the brand new cars that come with a manual transmission. Starting off in the A section, we have the Aston Martin Vantage. Now, if some of you have been subscribed for a while now, you would know that I kind of had a brief partnership. I don't know if I'd call it really a partnership, but I had a relationship with an Aston Martin dealership, and I actually got the privilege to review a DB11 as well as a DBX on the channel. Unfortunately though, I wasn't able to take out any of their Vantages because, I don't know, I guess they just didn't trust me with a manual transmission. But it's not like I don't know how to drive manual, but that's neither here nor there. That's a story for another day. Then we have the new BMW M3. I just did a review on a E30 BMW, I think it was an 87 325e, and I kind of talked about how I don't really like the new design. However, it still is great that BMW is giving you that option, as well as giving you that manual transmission option in the M4. I thought also the new M2 that they just announced also has the manual transmission option, but yeah, this article was made back in April 13th, so there might be some you know, models here and there that aren't missing, but I'm pretty sure you can fact check me if I'm wrong down in the comments below. But I'm pretty sure the new M2 as well is coming with a manual transmission. Now moving on, we got the Cadillac CT4V Blackwing. Never really been too much of a fan of these Cadillacs, to be honest with you. I think they're fantastic when it comes to performance, but luxury cars honestly really aren't my thing. Same thing with the CT5, really not much to say. Also the Chevy Camaro, which is rumored to be discontinued very soon, within the next few years or so. So if you're a Camaro fan, I would definitely pick one up while you still have the chance. Obviously, if you want to get a new one, used ones are everywhere, and depending upon the generation, you can get used Camaros for extremely cheap. Now, staying with Chevy, actually the Chevy Spark, and honestly, as someone who really enjoys smaller cars, yes, this is probably one of the ugliest and most boring cars out there on the market right now, but it still is a small car. As a little grocery getter or a daily driver, could still be pretty fun. Dodge Challenger, again, Dodge is discontinuing all internal combustion engine Challengers, so these next couple years are going to be the last, probably the last factory Challengers with manual transmissions in them. Now the Ford Mustang, again, this article was back in April of this year, but with the new release of the S650 Mustang, Ford still kept the manual transmission, which I'm such a fan of. I believe, however, the EcoBoost is not going to come with a manual transmission, so you can only get it in the new Dark Horse or the GTs, but still, Ford knows their audience, and they know that you know, we love our manual transmissions. And now moving on, we got the Honda Civic, this new 11th gen Civic. Also just released the new 11th gen Type R, if you want to call it, I guess, the 11th gen Type R. But yeah, all the Type R, the SI, and I believe the regular trim as well, the hatchback trim, comes with a manual transmission. The Hyundai Elantra, another very surprising car. I think like last month or so, I actually did a review on a Hyundai Sonata N-Line. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to get my hands on an Elantra N yet, but they're supposed to be a lot of fun. Same thing with the Velosters and the Veloster Ns. Really not much to say about those two cars besides the fact that they're very surprising, especially considering that they're Hyundais and people kind of want to label them poorly or whatever. Also, surprisingly, another like little sleeper, I guess if you could call it a sleeper, the new Fortes. They don't make that much power, but they're pretty fun cars, around 200 horsepower, coming out of a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine. The Mazda 3, same thing, except the Mazda 3 has a little bit more space. Probably a little bit more practical to get one of these if you have a family, or again, if you're just looking for something with a little bit more space and don't want to downsize to a Kia Forte or, you know, anything like that. Or, speaking about downsizing in cars, the Mazda Miatas, obviously for all of their generations, they've always been, or they've always had the option for manual transmissions. I honestly can never see a Mazda making a Miata that isn't, you know, coming with a manual transmission option out there. The new NDs, I really love their styling. I love that kind of like angry cat look that they have to them, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll pop up the meme on the screen right now. But they basically look like the angry cat meme, and like they look very aggressive, probably the most aggressive factory Miata ever made. The Mini hardtop and convertible, I did a while back, I think like 2 years ago now, I did a review on a Mini Cooper, just like a base model Cooper, and that had a 6-speed trans in it, and it was 2016. Again, very fun little cars, not really much to say that hasn't been said already about those Minis. Same thing with the Clubmans, except the Clubmans are kind of like more of like a crossover. I know, yes, they're still a car, but they're definitely a lot bigger than what you'd think a Mini would be. But they do fit a market, especially here in America, where all of our vehicles are larger than the rest of the world. Mitsubishi Mirage, I don't know too much about these cars besides the fact that they're like little 3-cylinder engine subcompact cars offered by Mitsubishi. They look pretty sporty. I'm sure that they don't make a lot of power, but they can still be pretty fun. Kind of same thing with the Chevy Spark, where they're, you know, a good little daily driver, I guess. Nice, cheap, and simple. Now moving on, we got the Nissan Versa. This actually came as a surprise to me. I didn't realize that the new Versas were still offered with a manual transmission. And now moving on to the Porsches. The Porsches, there's actually a decent amount of different models here. You got the 718 Boxer and the Cayman, the new 911s, and I say 911s plural because obviously you have the GT3s, the GT2s. I don't know if they've came out with a new GT2 yet for this generation, but normally there's obviously different trims and kind of sub-models of the 911. And to be honest, we don't really need to talk about Porsche too long because we know what they offer. They're probably one of, if not the best supercar brand in the world, and I really have like a lot of respect for them for essentially being one of, if not the last, kind of attainable supercar brands to actively push for, you know, saving the manual transmission and offering it in so many of their models. Now moving on, we got the Subaru BRZ. Not too much to say about this guy. Obviously, this is something that does get a lot of unnecessary hate, I think. They're great little cars. I just reviewed a GR86 back in August, a new one, a new like 2022 GR86, so from this like new generation. And yeah, I know they get a lot of hate for still not being turbocharged or anything and still being naturally aspirated, but that's kind of what the manufacturers want of that car. They want a small, simple, like little, not too high output just naturally aspirated driver's car, and that is what you're getting with the new BRZs or the GR86s. Now moving on, we got the Subaru Impreza. This was another car, just like the Versa, that actually came as a surprise to me. I didn't realize that Subaru was still offering the Imprezas with a manual transmission. However, I did know that the WRXs still come with a manual transmission. I actually saw one in person at the 2022 New York Auto Show back in April, right around the time that this article was actually released, and they're not really the best looking WRX generation out there. However, Subaru really didn't change too much from the previous generation besides the design, so if you are a WRX fanboy, you know, they could still be a good new car to pick up. Now the Toyota Corolla, these are something that obviously everyone's talking about the GR Corolla, but that's like kind of a different body design completely. But the regular Corollas, kind of like this, like the SE and the more like normal ones and like non-hatchbacks, I guess you could say, they're honestly pretty you know, surprising cars as well. I think that they're pretty underrated. They're priced very, very competitively. I don't think that they're overpriced at all. However, I could understand the argument for like the Corolla XSE hatchback or the GR Corolla being a tad bit overpriced. Again, I know that the GR Corolla is really badass. It's another car that I saw when it was like not initially debuted, but one of the first times it was out in the public, back in early April at the 2022 New York Auto Show. And it really is awesome to see in person. I cannot wait to see the GR Corollas out on the street. But I can kind of understand why some people think that they're a tad bit overpriced. Moving on, we got the Toyota GR86, which the only thing I really have to say about this car that I didn't say already with the BRZ is that it's a little bit more stiffer and a tad bit more unforgiving than the BRZ. But also, again, this is another car that this article is actually missing out on. The new Supras for the 2023 model year and beyond are going to have a manual transmission option offered in them. That was something that Toyota just came out and said in the summer, this past summer, and that's obviously to compete with the new Nissan Z, which also happens to not be in this article for some reason. But the new Nissan Z obviously does come with a manual. Most of you guys probably know that already, and the new Supras are going to be coming with a manual transmission option. So I got to give a lot of props to Toyota. They have a lot of different models that are still offered in the manual transmission. Now moving on, we got the Volkswagen Golf, the Volkswagen Jetta, which was actually pretty surprising to me. Again, that's another car on here that I just did not foresee being still offered with a manual transmission option. Now getting towards the end of the video today, we have another article here by Car and Driver, which briefly talks about the crossovers and the SUVs still offered in the manual transmission. Probably one of the most popular ones, you get the Ford Bronco. That's why I was so ecstatic to see the new like reveal back in 2020 when Ford came out with this new Bronco and Bronco Sport. However, I do not think that the Bronco Sport has a manual transmission option. I think it's just the Ford Broncos, and it only comes in a limited amount of trims, so it's kind of annoying that Ford just couldn't offer it with everything, but it is what it is. You also have the Hyundai Venue. Hyundai kind of coming in clutch again and offering another model with a manual transmission. Also, you got the Jeep Wrangler, which is the main competitor of the Bronco, or I guess vice versa you could say, considering that the Wrangler didn't take like a 20-something or 30-something year hiatus in production, and the Wrangler's kind of always been around. You also have the Kia Soul, which was very, very surprising to me. I knew that the older Kia Souls came with a manual transmission. However, I did not realize that they still came with a manual transmission. Also, you got the Subaru WRX. I'm just joking. The new Subaru Crosstrek, but again, that's what I was saying before with the WRX. So many people are hating on the new design of the WRX because it looks so similar to this Crosstrek. But staying on topic here and now talking about the Crosstrek, it's not bad. I mean, it's a very plain Jane. I'm sure if you're a Subaru fan, you like the Crosstreks, and I'm sure if you don't like Subaru as a brand, you probably hate the Crosstreks. They're probably the most Subaru out there. Like, if you took a kid or someone who just like doesn't care about cars or vehicles at all, and you told them to draw a Subaru, this is probably what they would come out with. Obviously, the WRX is probably the most iconic Subaru, but this is probably the most plain Subaru out there on the market, to be honest with you. But that is pretty much just going to wrap it up for these two articles by Car and Driver. Again, they were missing some stuff that I had to kind of correct because these articles came out back in April of this year. So if there's anything else that I missed, definitely be sure to let me know down in the comments below, and let everyone else know that is watching this video, because us car enthusiasts, again, we want to save the manuals, and I'd rather invest my hard-earned money if I'm going to buy a new vehicle into a manufacturer that are, you know, actually listening to the audience and making more models with manual transmission options, then go ahead and, you know, spend my money elsewhere and not necessarily kind of, I guess, support the whole like save the manuals movement and new vehicles. But if you stuck to the end of today's video, I do have to say thank you guys so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. If you guys don't mind, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff I said before. I know it's annoying, but as a small car channel here on YouTube, it really does help me out a ton. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed today's video, click on either of these links right here to watch a similar video from this channel, or click on the little circle link right there to actually subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. I do appreciate all the support, but thank you for sticking to the end of this video, and I hope you have a fantastic day.